Hi, do you mind if I show you this build that I'm working on? It's just no, it's just real quick. I already have a thing like made. It's loading. It usually doesn't take.
Can't you just leave?
He doesn't need to.
I'm dead.
You're pushing this.
No, you fucking live, Cyrus. You fucking live.
Holy. Chudzu Premium. Chudzu Premium is a build. It's a build. The point of the build is that whenever I play Gun Ivy, it makes me feel like less of an Ivy. I'm mainly just trying to hit my shots, and then like the abilities, they kind of come secondary. Like the gun in Gun Ivy is at the expense of the Ivy. Gun, all caps, then tiny, lowercase Ivy. But then the spirit builds, the support builds, you don't get to have a gun. All the spirit builds, all of them without exception, they're all doing this thing where they like rush Trophy Collector or they rush Decay. For God's sake, some of them are doing both. I don't understand how that happens if every other build in the game is rushing Titanic Mag Tesla bullets. It's like, why wouldn't a spirit build do that? What could be wrong with building the item that scales with spirit power and fire rate if you're building spirit power on the character that gets fire rate for building spirit power? So, can a spirit build scale capacitor? Let's benchmark the capacitor from Chudzu Premium against the capacitor famously featured in Hidocker's Gun Ivy. Hidocker's build is how we're going to compare ourselves to gun builds for most of this video. Only because Hidocker's build is on the more damage-heavy side of popular Gun Ivy builds, with items like Burst Fire, Slowing Bullets, and Swift Striker. So at 24.6k souls, when both builds are getting their second tier 4 item, our capacitor is doing 175 DPS and Hidocker's is doing 152 DPS. Which is a small enough difference that it could be because of some bullshit that I don't want to talk about. The point is that we reach about the same ballpark, but a gun build gets there by building more fire rate, and we get there by building more spirit power. So if we know we can scale the item, why wouldn't we start with this well-attested early game that we know works? It's not that miserable to play. Saving up for Tesla bullets in lane kind of sucks, but it beats the hell out of rushing Decay or Trophy Collector. Especially if you keep your lane partner updated on how close you are to finishing Tesla bullets. I'm 1k off Tesla bullets. Once I have it, we don't have to respect them ever again. I promise you. I'm gonna take care of you. You're too pretty to work. You're my princess.
Monarch.
Sure. What, because your pocket?
Yeah.
Being communicative about how long it's going to take you to get this item that you're saving up for means that they'll know not to commit to fights while you're still weak. If your lane is really brutal, you can buy Resto Shot. Other than that, there's not really much you can do about it. From showing this build to people, I've identified 3 major eyebrow raisers. These are what I get the most questions about, so I'm going to talk about these 3 things. Starting with Spirit Lifesteal. The core rationale behind building this item is that it builds into Spiritual Overflow. I don't hate these stats, and you're going to be lifestealing off of your Capacitor and your Thorns and later your Merc Mag, but mainly it lets you get your Green Spike in a way that won't delay your Spiritual Overflow. I don't think this is a build where you can just farm and scale forever. I think you do have to be active in the mid game. So I think it's really useful to have a Green Spike option that we can get early that's not going to delay our power spikes later. If you don't like the way I build, fuck, you could replace it with any 1600 soul green item and probably be fine. Enchanters is probably good, any of the barrier items. You could get 1 tier 2 green and 1 tier 3 green to save a slot. You can also kind of not worry about the green spike so much. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm really ahead and just trying to snowball. I almost died to this Wraith because of that habit. It's probably irresponsible to give that advice. I'm just like leaving a Looney Tunes outline of her for a second, and then she tries to card out, but she's in my stone form, so she dies. You can't count on stuff like that. Fleetfoot is the best item I've found to solve ammo problems in this build without fucking up what Mercurial Magnum does. We are maxing tether first, so we don't get any value out of the passive, but the active and the slide distance are both really useful on a build where you're specifically trying not to reload. We could go active reload for this purpose, but active reload has a crazy anti-synergy with Merc Mag. Merc Mag gives you stats until your next reload, and active reload does not give you stats until your next reload. If you want to substitute Fleetfoot with something, I would try recharging Rush. The stats are good, it gives us ammo and weapon damage, and it's really natural for what this build is trying to do. I might try that more, but Fleetfoot is such a feel-good item for me, and I just play better when I'm feeling good. Anyway, let's talk about Mercurial Magnum. I only get this item after I have rapid recharge, and I specifically buy it when it will finish my 11.2k spirit spike. I apologize, but I'm gonna have to talk about numbers for a minute. Cyrus fell off when he started messing with numbers. What? What?
Fucking true. That is true. I'll second that. I'll upvote that.
So just purely looking at the numbers, if these are the items you have, Merc Mag is the item that's going to give you the most DPS. I'm not going to show you all of my work because you're just going to like zone out. But the damage breakdown here is that Ivy's going to do 273 DPS with her gun. That includes tether. Merc Mag is going to contribute 126 DPS of its own enchanted bullet damage. And using my calculator, Capacitor is contributing 175. This doesn't look like Merc Mag is doing that much, but it's also giving us 22% fire rate from its active. So you could say that Merc Mag is also responsible for 36 of our gun DPS, and because of some bullshit I don't want to talk about, only 7 of our Capacitor DPS. Overall, buying this item has increased our DPS by 41%. Given the items that we already have, no other item in the game could have increased our DPS by that much. But that doesn't really prove anything about Merc Mag, right? Because I picked these items, so it's like, okay. All that proves is that I can make a build that needs Mercurial Magnum. It doesn't say anything about whether or not this build is any good, so we have to go back to benchmarking against another build. I know it's weird that I keep talking about Hidocker's build. Gun Ivy isn't meta, so I'm just trying to compare us to a build that I know does a lot of damage. Compared to Wander Tempo Bullet Ivy or Fargar Echo, Hidocker's going to be doing the same or more damage. It's just a ballpark point of reference for us. Assuming that Hidocker is shooting at somebody with about 3,000 health, you can see that he's doing about 72 more DPS than us. You can see Siphon isn't doing a lot here. Let's swap it out for Glass Cannon and get this crazy number. And I think this is a good upper bound for like if Hidocker were a maniac, how much damage could you do? Also, it just works out that Hidocker's build has Shred by this point, which I'm not accounting for. We get Mystic Vuln next and Crippling later. I'm not factoring Shred into the damage, but I am just mentioning it here so that you can keep that in mind. It's hard to think about Shred in a build that does split damage. Maybe this is a Spirit Shredder angle? Maybe we could get our Weakening Headshot earlier. I don't know. Anyway, let's do a side-by-side comparison of Chudzu Premium, Hidocker's Gun Ivy, and Hidocker's Gun Ivy if Hidocker were a maniac. We're getting mogged. We're doing between 11 and 31% less damage than what an equivalent gun build would be doing. And I've proven it myself from the horse's own mouth. Hoist by my own petard. My only hope is that I might incur some benefit from having investment bonuses that look like this instead of this. What the Thorn's doing? The answer is that our thorns do 182 DPS, while these thorns do 52 DPS. And yes, this is assuming that all 3 builds put points into thorns and everything like that. Our thorns are looking kind of nice. Our thorns are nice. Our thorns are nice to the extent that if we hit somebody with capacitor active and put thorns under them, the damage will add up to be competitive with the other gun builds. We've moved power out of our gun, but now we're enabling ourselves to do things that only an Ivy could do. We can lean more into the way that Ivy can reward a good read or punish people for chasing or things like that. I accidentally left like 10 seconds of just black screen here. I found it funny, so I'm just going to leave it in. In a few seconds, I'm going to say same goes for, and you're not even going to remember what point I was making. Same goes for all of our abilities. If we aren't attached to somebody, we're taking a bigger hit in DPS because we would be getting 40% fire rate otherwise. At the same time, when we are attached to somebody, they're getting 40% fire rate from us. The way that we come out ahead of gun builds is by doing more Ivy type stuff. On the other hand, the more we run around just shooting people, the more we'll fall behind what a gun Ivy build would have accomplished. To win, we have to play Ivy. At this point in the life of a gun build, they tend to go through a kind of crisis and question their whole purpose for existing. You'll see them pivot to support items, counter items, utility items, or survivability options. This is because there aren't really a lot of reasonable ways for an Ivy to get damage past this point. Chudzu Premium, on the other hand, still has a lot of ways to offer us more damage on this gun. We could get another gun tier 4 to capitalize on all the fire rate that we've built by getting more weapon damage. We could also build more fire rate. We haven't really invested very deep into that yet. We could get more spirit power, and spirit power would also give us fire rate from our tether. Or there's other stats that this build wouldn't mind having, like duration or a little bit more spirit lifesteal. Another thing we could do is finish the item that we're already almost done building that does all of these things at the same time. If you don't know what Spiritual Overflow does, it causes your bullets to build up a bunch of bonus stats. The only problem with this item is that fully charging it up takes a really long time if you slow the footage down, but luckily in-game it only takes about 1/3 of a second. The Spirit Power bonus applies retroactively to any thorns that you've already put on the ground and to your Merc Mag if it's already active. We get Mystic Vuln and Improved Spirit, and then we finish this item, by which point we've increased our DPS just from our gun by about 40%, and we've tacked another 47 damage onto our thorns for good measure. I've been comparing this to gun builds a lot because it's easy to just get a by the numbers comparison. What's harder is comparing this to a pure spirit build. Naturally, the early game is a little bit easier. We have more carry potential, we have more self-sufficient damage, but we lose a lot of the utility that a spirit build would have. Our abilities are harder to land because we don't have easy confirms like Arctic Blast or Vortex Web. We also can't just do things like put a decay on a Moa and Krill and then just walk away, doing nothing, and then he gets spirit burned for half of his health. Holy shit. I apologize that I don't have more footage of me just playing a straight up spirit build. I do have this clip of me playing Ashire's build. It's a good clip. So compared to a spirit build, we don't have as much combo setup and we don't have a lot of the team fight utility. But we do have a gun that people have to respect, and that is a tool that can help you hit abilities, right? Like if you've ever tried to land a stone form on somebody who isn't scared of you at all, and all they have to think about is not getting hit by the stone form, obviously you're not going to land it. So you do have to think about your abilities differently than how you normally would, and you wind up using your abilities in tandem with your gun in a way that's really just fun. It's just good gameplay. And the last thing I want to say is try not to build this if your team already has 2 heavy sustained damage dealers. You don't want to suck up all the farm trying to compete with your teammates for damage. Usually it's better to work on setting up fights for those people or whatever. And the same goes for if you just notice at any point in the game that you're just not able to make money. If you're just insanely behind, because this is a spirit build, you can pivot out of trying to be your team's damage dealer at any point. It's really clean and natural to just pick up a vortex web at any point in this build and just become kind of a combo-driven playmaker. And the last question you might have is this build good?